husband and I were walking the 3.2 miles loop trail that encircles Lost Lake. We were about 2 miles around when we heard a sound come from the other side of the lake way off in the distance. It actually sounded as if it were coming from high up on the mountain on the other side of the lake. It was a howl call sound. It was extremely quiet, and since the birds and other sounds were so clear, we are very sure it was miles away. The sound started low and guttural and reached an amazingly high pitch. It was fairly short in duration, and my husband and I both stopped walking as soon as we heard it. We were wondering if anyone else heard it. We only passed 2 or 3 other people on the trail. It was a very quiet fall afternoon. After listening to your audio clips on this website, it sounded most like the sounds recorded in the Klamath area of California in 1993. It might also be of interest that one of the camper sightings in this area from around 94-96 was at the exact time of day in the Lost Lake area. The beauty of the Ozarks never ceased to amaze me. As I stood on the edge of a cliff overlooking the vast expanse of lush green forests and rugged terrain, I took a deep breath, savoring the crisp mountain air. The sun was just beginning to dip below the horizon, casting a warm golden glow across the landscape. It was moments like these that made me grateful to be a park ranger entrusted with the responsibility of protecting this magnificent wilderness. As I continued my patrol, the tranquil silence was suddenly shattered by a blood-curdling scream coming through my radio. My heart raced as I instinctively grabbed the radio and tried to make contact with the source of the distress call. The static-filled response was barely audible, but I could make out that someone was in desperate need of help. I wasted no time jumping into my vehicle and speeding in the direction of the distress call. As I navigated the narrow dirt roads and treacherous terrain, I couldn't help but wonder what kind of danger awaited me. The Ozarks were home to many wild animals, but none that I could think of would elicit such a terrifying scream. As I arrived at the scene, I saw a hiker lying on the ground, covered in blood and trembling in fear. My eyes were immediately drawn to the monstrous creature standing over the injured hiker. It resembled a werewolf with razor-sharp claws and blood-stained fur. It snarled menacingly, but when it saw me, it suddenly stopped and bolted into the woods. Without thinking, I gave chase. Fueled by adrenaline and a fierce determination to protect the people who visited these lands, the creature was incredibly fast, darting between trees and leaping over obstacles with ease. As I pursued it deeper into the forest, I began to question whether I was truly prepared to face such a formidable predator. Despite my best efforts, the creature eventually managed to evade me, disappearing into the dense undergrowth. I stood there panting and covered in sweat, the reality of what I had just witnessed finally sinking in. I had come face to face with an unknown predator, something that defied explanation and logic. I made my way back to the injured hiker, my mind racing with questions and uncertainty. I administered first aid and called for a medical evacuation, doing my best to reassure the terrified individual that help was on the way. As we waited for the helicopter to arrive, I couldn't help but feel a lingering sense of dread, the knowledge that something monstrous now roamed the Ozarks, and the fear that I might not be able to protect those who ventured into the wilderness. In the end, I was left with a chilling reminder of the unknown dangers that lurked in the shadows of the Ozarks, and the knowledge that the tranquility of this majestic landscape had been shattered by the presence of a terrifying predator. And though I continued to patrol the park, I couldn't shake the feeling that somewhere hidden in the depths of the forest, the creature was watching, waiting for its next opportunity to strike. While sighting in my son's rifle, we heard what sounded like large tree branches breaking. This was heard once by me and 3 or 4 times by my son. There was no one else around the area. As we were leaving, I saw some deer tracks alongside the road on a bank, and right by the deer tracks was an impression that looked like a big barefoot. I had my son put a pop can next to it and took several pictures of it. I can't say for sure it is a boyfriend print, but it looks a lot like